Uh, Colleen, on the list of things that you gave me on my list, I am missing the renewal of the installer's license for John Kezer. I'm missing the renewal of the hauler's license for complete septic system. I do not have the food establishment permit for American Legion.
Oh, I wonder if I yeah, I don't know if I think I missed those when I was
Maybe
sending. No, I don't know if I sent those.
Well, we can.
It's not among the attachments that you just recently sent, Colleen.
Yeah, I don't think I did send those.
Did you get them, Herb?
I don't believe I did.
I got John and Shirley Kezer this afternoon. There was about 6 or 7 attachments. That was one of them.
Which is that in reference to?
The installer license.
I don't have that.
I think we can act on them anyways, because they're both renewals. So if we just go down through, our first appointment is going to be Alan Weiss on Lot F Taylor Street. I did send out a thing for everybody. That's our only review. That's an approved design that had a restriction that they had to do. It was a out of season perk, and they had to go back in and do water table. On the 4th of March, we did do the water table. The actual physical water was deep and like 8 feet, and the water table was determined by models, and it was the same model level, so everything was exactly the same. My recommendation is that we just remove the restriction of that they can't start until the water table's been done, and we just let it go. Also, the design did get changed to include the soil logs of March 4th, and the well, when we originally approved it, it was a proposed location, and the well has called.
I'll second that.
So if we're okay with that.
Yes.
Lee, how are you with that? Okay,
Yep,
so when
everything
Alan
appears
comes
to
on,
be in
we'll
place.
just let him be, and
Yeah.
okay.
You can just go home right away. Or
The next, yeah. The next item on the list, Herb, I don't know whether the minutes are there. Are we going to approve the minutes as modified or not?
I saw that you agreed to the changes I had made. So I'm okay with that.
I did. Okay. Lee, how are you?
no, all fine.
Okay, so that's approved. On my going through, I've got Colleen's timesheet. It's 70 hours, normal timesheet. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Lee, Colleen, that's approved. The
Okay.
next one I've got is $1,165 for our turnover, and we've had 420 for permits, Board of Health permits, licenses at 385, Board of Health fees 250, gas permits 110, and that's it. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
I had a question about one of these things. Maybe it's not this one. Yes, this one's okay.
This is okay, Herb?
Yes,
Is that what you said? I missed it. Okay,
yes.
Colleen, we're all set with that. I'm okay too with
Okay,
that. The next one I have is uh, a bills payable. That's $55.05 to JP Cook for our new stamp that has the fact that we need a trench permit on it. That's what that is, right, Colleen?
yes, yes, it is.
I'm good with that.
I'm okay with it. Are you okay,
Yep.
Herb and Lee?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's okay. The next one I have is a purchase request for 5 packages of office copy and a fax cartridge totaling $50.98 to just seeing who it is, Colleen, to,
Will office supply.
Quill, okay, yep, both of them to Quill. I'm okay with it. Are Herb and Lee?
Yes,
Okay,
Okay, Colleen, we're set with that.
okay,
The next one I have is the fish fry for Immaculate Heart of Mary. We approved it last week, but there was no date on this, so there actually wasn't, this hadn't been submitted. Are we okay with this? I am. It's the same as we approved last week, or last meeting.
yes.
Yes,
Lee, Herb?
okay.
yes.
Okay, that's good. I've got
Okay.
the next one, so let me cross out, because we're getting into some spots. So I've done the timesheet, the money turnout, purchase order, temporary food. American Legion, I don't have, but it looks like they've completed everything and are ready to go. Is that, Colleen, is that correct, Lynn?
Yes, that's why I
approved.
didn't send anything, because it's just basically the signing of the permit. You know, you had everything else, so that's why there wasn't like any attachment. Because the last
Herb,
thing
Lee,
was
what are your
the-
thoughts? I'm okay with this.
I think we've done enough with the American Legion.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're good to
Oh,
go.
you're okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
me too. So they're set, Colleen.
Okay, thanks.
Colleen, did you let the Berniers know that we rescinded that regulation last meeting?
Yes, yes, and they said there was just something else I
Okay.
believe they were doing for the building inspector, and they were gonna send in the fee once they got that done, and it was gonna be a couple of weeks
Okay,
before they were asking for that.
okay, but
so,
they know
yeah.
it. That's all.
They know it.
So
They
we've
know it.
got, the next one is a renewal for Kaiser. Now, that's a renewal. He already has this, Colleen?
Yes, yeah, he had the license
Okay,
just to do his septic system at, I believe it's 200 East Street, maybe, and
oh, that's the
He
one you
never-
asked.
yes, yeah,
200 Chicopee, oh, I'm sorry,
That's-
he lives at.
That's the
Chicopee
one that
Street.
yeah, this is Pleasant Street, I think, and that's the one that we approved him. Only, we didn't have experience with him. We approved him for that system. And he just didn't put
Yep.
it in. And I told Colleen that it would be a matter of, rather than have him come in and go through the whole thing over again, it's just the same approval as we did in October or whatever. What are your thoughts, Lee, Herb?
It's fine.
Yeah, there shouldn't be an issue. Do we
Me?
know who the engineer is on this job?
I forget
I
who it
don't
is.
have it in
It's not
front of
one
me.
of our normal ones.
Okay,
It's a,
I mean,
it's
I
a
just-
good sized fill system.
okay. I'm just hoping that
So
They-
Colleen, we're over.
I just hope they communicate back and forth with all the town requirements to do it one time only.
And they understood it, that when my review with them took a fairly long time and he understood it.
Okay,
It's an interesting pump system. And he actually is a pump system without a vent in it. And he pointed out that there is absolutely no place in Title V that requires a vent. And I'm hoping the installer recognizes that it does in fact need a vent that displays the air that gets locked in there. But he was correct. It didn't say it in Title V. But renewal of the hauler's license for complete septic system, Colleen, he has that.
They get one every year, yes.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Are
sure.
Herb and Lee?
Yes,
Okay, that's okay. Alan, I see you're looking at us in a
I am. How
in
are
a
you all?
way.
good.
So what we did, we've already discussed you. What we noted is that you added the soil logs from March and you put that at the well is installed as compared with proposed. And we're removing the restriction that construction can't go until water table has been done because it's done. So you're all done.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
We're all
Alan.
set. We'll probably be talking soon about Darrell Lab or Darrell Drive. I'm perking that with Lee next week.
Trench, I've got a trench permit. In fact, when we look at the procedure, are we in a spot, Herb and Lee, these permits can, on the trenches, can be coming in, theoretically, they could come in the day before or the day after one of our meetings, and we say that they can't do the installations without a permit. Should we be in a spot, since no one, that nobody has to go inspect this, can we look at this as just paper kind of exercise that we allow Colleen to actually sign it and then just inform us that it's been signed? Because we get
Since,
these guys in a catch-22.
Yeah. Since Colleen has other far more substantive things that she handles, I think she can handle this as well.
How are you with that, Lee?
Well, this is, as I understand it, this is somewhat of a toothless permit. It's procedural through the building inspector.
Yeah, what we really should do is just inform him as soon as Colleen does it. If Colleen lets us know that she signed them and she lets him know, so since he's the trench officer, then Colleen, you get a spot. If you just sign it, then they have the permit, so they comply with our regulation. I agree with her. This is a paper issue. And so we'll just let you do it and you just inform us.
Okay. Do they need to have the dig safe number on there when they submit it, or is that something
They
they
do,
get?
and
like,
no,
There's
they're
one that
supposed to, I noticed on the second one, does have dig safe. And if they don't have the dig safe, they cannot get the permit. That's a state requirement that they need to have the dig safe number with the permit application.
Okay, so that one's missing it. Yeah, one of those, yeah.
Yeah,
So so that being said, as I understand, going forward, everyone has to call DigSafe prior, get a number after they've come out before Colleen can fill that out and sign it.
that's correct. That's one of the things that they had to do. And in reality, if you think about the benefit, there are probably only two benefits. One is the safety part, obvious that Herb was talking about, a couple meetings ago. And the other, someone not falling in the trench. But the other is obviously go dig down and break a gas line is something that is worthwhile. Or water lines. If you look at we've got several streets in town that have water and gas. So Colleen, that's important that you just they can't get the permit without that dig safe.
Okay,
So that was the three of them that since Colleen can do this, we don't have to even act on this tonight. Colleen can just do it and inform that the second one that he needs to get the number before she'll issue it.
okay.
I've got a sign off on the building permit that's South Street, 67 South Street. That's that big east and south. Colleen, you were in a spot that remember we didn't act by giving you permission to authorize this. That one had the well water didn't comply, and we were waiting for them to get a water in order to say that he could fix the water and make it comply. We got the letter and we're all set. But Colleen couldn't sign it because at the meeting we dealt with it, we didn't tell Colleen that if she got the letter, she could sign it. So we've got to authorize her now that it's set. Are we set to authorize Colleen to sign this?
Yes.
Sure. Most of the
Okay,
results out of compliance were out of compliance at 2 decimal places, but whatever.
Well, I don't know if you may
yeah,
not have
and it
gotten
looks,
the download on that, but they claim that they have a system for making the water come in line with the specs necessary for the
Yes.
homeowner.
Yeah.
and I've got a feeling that almost all of these, if worse comes to worse, they can end up putting reverse osmosis, and it probably brings almost everything into compliance.
Right.
I've got another one that I don't have a copy of, and that's the 163 Bachelor Street well permit and well decommission permit. I don't have that.
No, I think I sent it to Lee.
Lee, do you know if we're all set?
I have not been on site,
Okay,
so I'm not quite sure which where we are with the process, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what they're planning on drilling and decommissioning. And of course, I have to, or we all have to make sure that it is in compliance with the layout of the SAS. But again, I've not been notified by anybody to make a site
So we
visit
won't act,
or dig up some information on that.
we just won't act on that. We just won't act on it, Lee.
Okay.
Do have another one that's not on our list. This is an old one. This is at Sexton, new construction on South Street. That's one of George Galusha's lots. And
Yes.
that's the one that's across the street. I don't know why this is here, Colleen. Have we never signed off on this?
Right, no, I don't think so, because they just brought that in and so I don't think it was ever signed off on.
Are we okay with that, Lee?
That goes back into last summer, but I believe everything is fine. I have not been out since I did the system across the street down the hill. I don't know about tank location, the piping, none of that. I haven't been back since that time, and that was probably at this point maybe 8 or 9 months ago.
So this isn't ready yet either. Yeah, they did all that work on the east side of South Street, but in fact, maybe the tank isn't even in yet. So we can't act on this one either, Colleen.
Okay,
Our next
so
agenda
that-
item,
Colleen, do you have a listing of the installer on this thing on South?
I
that
don't
was
have
Haber
it-
Brothers.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
have it with me.
No idea.
He
Okay.
wants to get an occupancy permit, I guess. Everything's all done, but he needed that signature.
Well, if it needs to be inspected first. But
And,
so he should
okay,
get,
so an inspection was never done? All right,
Well, the system itself is in the ground across the way, but from the other side of South Street going to the house, I was never made aware that they needed any further inspections. There has been no notification coming across to my knowledge.
okay.
So I'm happy to meet them on site or whoever. I think Bob Sheen's the engineer on this one to get this thing done as quickly as they want to go. I don't want to hold
Okay.
anybody.
Okay, I'll have him contact you then.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
our next item, I say Megan is here. Maybe we can make life easy for Megan. Are you with us, Megan?
Yes, I am, and I would love it if you would make life easy for me.
I would propose and Lee that this is exactly what we did. Megan is here for JA softball and baseball for the spring. It seems to me that this is outdoor sports. The things that we did last week are letting these outdoor sports go, that they've got their own rules, that their safety rules that are with masks and distance. And we said, but at the last meeting, Lee and I said that with the governor loosening things up and with these safety measures and the fact that this disease doesn't spread outside very much, we said these are fine. And we let, I think the schools, who else, Lee, that went? I think it was spring soccer also. And I think Megan fits with all of those decisions. What are Herb and Lee, what are your thinking?
No,
Okay.
I completely agree.
The question I had was, is there any stealing, or does someone have to stay on first base until whatever the rule is? And can the first baseman hold a runner on at first base? Because that would entail very close even contact with the runner. So I was just wondering about that.
So I can tell you for softball, we don't have that particular rule. We can't hold runners on first base like that. It's just not a rule in softball at all. Peter White is actually on the line as well. He is our baseball director, and he can handle that and how it applies to baseball.
Hello, Peter White is on here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I think for the baseball side of it, the leagues aren't quite finalized, but they're following the direction of what the MIAA is doing. I know the MIAA is actually looking at doing double bases. So if you are holding on a player, there's still probably 3 to 4 feet of separation on there. I know for the springtime last year, they actually eliminated pickoff throws and stealing just for that purpose. But I do not believe the leagues have actually finalized anything because baseball for MIAA doesn't officially start until April 26th. But whatever MIAA usually comes up with is what the league that we are in will follow. So I don't have an exact answer, but we're going to follow what the state and the MIAA are coming up with.
Okay, though that was the only potential fly in the ointment that I saw.
Okay.
Holding someone on first, you got to get right up to them.
Yeah.
So Herb, are you okay approving this?
Yes.
Okay. So you're set, Peter and Megan, you're done with us for the night.
Thank you. Sorry, just one more question that we had. As things kind of open up and the MIAA and the EEA move forward and change the guidelines in respect to how many spectators we can have, we will always adhere to what those guidelines are, but we were just curious as to whether we needed to come back in front of you if those guidelines were to open up.
My feeling, I'll lay it on the table. I think they ought to follow the guidelines. Herb, Lee, what do you think?
Follow the guidelines.
Yeah. Same.
Okay.
Okay, does that answer it, Megan?
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay,
And
have a
I
good night.
still couldn't hit a high inside fastball.
Well, we'll let
You
you
and
know
me-
when practice is and you can
You
come
and
on
me
over.
both.
Yep. It wrecked my baseball career.
My next item is the animal inspector nomination. That if Tom Fleabut, is Tom willing to accept this again, Colleen, do you know?
As far as I know, I haven't contacted him, but I do have a letter I'm gonna send him and I can, find, as far as I know, yes.
Herb, you have gone through many animal inspectors, but had luck in the past with animal inspectors, and Tom is a good one.
Okay.
My
Well, I
feeling is that we ought to.
understand that many years ago, DeWitt was the animal inspector. And there's all kinds of incredible stories about his antics as the animal inspector. Maybe at a different
Well,
time.
there
I
certainly
could
have been
relate them.
a couple.
Yes.
So I think we ought to nominate him. What do you two feel? Herb and Lee?
Yeah, if you need a second, I will make that, and as long as Colleen can get him to accept it after we
Are
vote
you
on
okay
it.
with that too, Herb?
I'm sorry. Say that
Are
again.
you
Dave.
okay with Tom?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so we're all set with that, Colleen.
Okay,
I'm gonna leave the last item, the shared services, until last. In terms of COVID issues, that we saw, we've got another person was claimed
Yes.
by it,
Yes.
and Colleen's got someone didn't even know had been taken early on. So we've now, in our little town, 5 deaths from this thing. And today was a terrible day. There was 8 positives today.
Yes.
So
I sent an article to you and Lee and Colleen about the problems with this COVID data around the country. And I would recommend taking a look at it. It's just extraordinary how iffy a whole lot of this data is, and the timing of data related to real events is another enormous issue, and just like this death that we're finding out about. And deaths may be the worst of all the things. Tremendous delay in finding out about deaths. But at any rate, I sent an article to you, Dick, to Lee, and to Colleen about problems with the
I
COVID.
read it. It's an interesting article. Leah, while reading it, it's a little longish compared to normal articles that get published, but I don't think it takes 10 minutes to read it.
Yeah.
And it is worthwhile. So, and in fact, when you look at the data that we're dealing with, our data, even though it's well, now it's about a day and a half old, but even if you look at the state and what they're doing with their colors, you know, they take a snapshot a week ago to tell you what's happening out in the future, and I've just looked at, if you look at funny kind of data, even that the state is dealing with, take a look at positivity and look at what the impact of what they're doing by taking the college students. And they've got all these tons and tons of testing, are just testing because they're required to test. But it drops the positivity number down so much. In fact, they're saying that our positivity is going down, but it's only because those college kids are so low right now. And in reality, the positivity is on its way up in the state right now when you deduct the college kids. So I think you're right, Herb. With the stuff that we're seeing is just not good. And even when you look at the stuff Desi is saying about, you know, the schools, that it's based on before the B117, and it's old data for stuff that's happening right now.
Well, Dick,
So Lee, it's worthwhile reading.
you're
it's the
exactly
Atlantic
right
that
on
did that, wasn't it?
on these rapid tests. It's just very difficult to know what data to look at when you start to include rapid tests. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of them being done, and it can dramatically change numbers very quickly, and the tests aren't necessarily good. The reporting is late, if at all. So a whole lot of information here is probably not as good as we'd like it to be.
So
That was my only point about the data.
yeah.
Hard to be sure about it.
We did, in terms of mail, Chloe sent us some stuff. on, on mail that she said it was, I think she titled it Fun Graphs or something. But it gave vaccinations by age and town. And if you looked at it, though, that we're not, in fact, everybody isn't way up there in terms of the high-risk people. We're well under 50% for most groups. So
As was
there's a-
every other town, virtually.
right.
Yeah.
In fact, it looked to me like the highest town was, I think it was Long Meadow that stood out as being better performing. But there was one other item that I had, and that was the last meeting we had trouble with Colleen's audio. And we started into a discussion that Chris Martin had reached out to me about Colleen's contract, but then he also said, gee, you know, when Chris really said, why don't we move this position, Colleen's position, from part-time to full-time? He said, I really thought we were gonna at least cover Friday afternoons and be in a spot that other groups don't have to cover for Board of Health questions when our assistant isn't there. And it turns out I had a subsequent discussion with Chris and with Colleen, and it really turns out that where Colleen is covering till 1 o'clock on Friday, for Chris is feeling, even though he absolutely wasn't demanding anything. He was just as the de facto facilities person that he gets the calls. He and I talked and said, you know what, if we could get coverage till 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock on Friday, that would really make him feel that Friday afternoon had a reasonable amount of coverage. And Colleen and I talked about it, and Colleen agreed that we could move our office hours till 2 o'clock on Friday, and if it managed to make everybody feel that we've got significant more coverage by moving that 1 hour, Colleen said, so be it, let's do it. So just informing Lee and Herb that's what Colleen agreed to do.
Just a question, please. Is that something we're just gonna implement, let it go? Or is this something on a 3 or 6 month trial to keeping a log on just how many messages or calls come in between the hours of 1 and 2?
Oh, that's a good idea.
No, I'm not trying to create a problem. I'm just talking out loud of whether or not this is time well spent versus time wasted.
Because the office hours are actually 9 to 12. So it's not like anyone is going to come into the office, because none of the other offices are open after 12. It would only be, you're right, like phone calls.
What does it hurt to get that data? I think it's a great thing, a great idea, Lee, that we come back and say, you know, we did this, and let's revisit it. In fact, maybe, Colleen, maybe once a month you can report on what it is. And after we get, you know, maybe we go through the summer and say, okay, we did this thing for 6 months, and guess what? There wasn't one call in the whole 6 months.
So does
Herb,
that
what do you
1
think? Is it
hour,
worthwhile?
does that 1 hour come from some other hour?
Yes.
So what
Yeah.
hour what does that come from?
Valley,
Well,
where are
I
you gonna,
could,
what are you gonna,
I don't know, wherever I can take it from, if I'm not, busy, or I mean, I can move it from one day to that day, whatever, and depending on how long the meetings go, I just kind of see, I can either come in a little bit later, like at 8:30, or leave a little bit earlier on those days I was staying till 3:30, I can leave at 3, 2 days or something. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, really. I'll just take it from somewhere.
I wasn't trying to find out exactly. I was actually just trying to find out whether you were a saint or something.
I think Lee's got a great, it's gotta come, because you're only working 70 hours. So if you work extra someplace, you have to take it out someplace else.
Correct.
Right.
Is there anybody else in the building,
So-
on
No.
Friday afternoon? Everyone's
No.
gone?
Yes.
So by 12:30, the place is empty.
Well, sometimes till 1, it just depends. Sometimes Kathy is there till 2. I would say, most of the time everyone's gone, but, it just depends on what everybody else has going on.
Sure. And the door will remain locked at all times, correct?
Yes, that was one thing I said. I won't open the door to anyone, so,
Correct. Okay.
thank you.
So I think for sure, keep track, Colleen, and come back, because if it is a fit that we're taking away from you. And if it's got no utility, if we don't gain anything back from it, it's just taking it away from you. And we ought to not do that sort of thing. But if we end up, there are calls there, then we'll say, you know what? It's right. So we can do that.
Sure, I'll keep track. Yep.
What are, on our other items of COVID issues, of COVID vaccinations, of schools, mail, other business, what else do we have? And then we can go into shared service relationships.
Just to let you know, this is Dennis
Given
Patel
that-
on the line.
Then let's,
Oh, that's right.
oh, I
Dennis,
forgot
yeah.
about you,
Yeah.
Dennis.
Good evening.
I didn't see, your name didn't come up. It's just got a telephone number.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Dennis, why
that.
don't you've got the floor.
I just need permission from the board to pursue doing the Dino Fest, which would be the second week in September.
What I'll lay on the table at this minute, when the governor has not opened up amusement parks, street fairs, community type activities, and at this minute, that isn't opened up yet.
Okay. Would it be okay if I tried again next month?
How much pre-planning do you need to pull this off?
About 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I don't know if we can do that. Charter Day is canceled. And that's 3 months out.
All right.
Probably aware of that. We just can't tell what we're gonna be looking at, in fairness to
understand.
everybody. I would like to see it occur, of course, as would, I'm sure the other board members feel the same way, but there's a lot of uncertainty out there.
Okay, I totally understand. I just have to see where we stand in the community.
I think coming back in a month and at least let us hack it around probably makes sense.
Sure.
All right, I appreciate your
Herb and
time.
Lee,
Thank you.
Is it, before you go, Dennis, Herb and Lee,
Yeah.
is it your feeling that we're gonna comply with the governor's regulations and it's gonna end up being in his court? Is that what our thought is?
That's the way I kind of figured. I didn't know what the governor had planned. There was something about the 21st of this month where it's going to go to phase 4, but I know that's not completely opening up. So I was calling basically for insight.
Well, I think the squirrely thing here is these variants that we just don't know what the biology of that's going to be and what kind of penetration they're going to have in our community and the communities around us, and how virulent they're really going to turn out to be, and if they're really anything at all to worry about. No one is sure about that. And I think that's one of the reasons to be cautious right now and take it a step at a time.
I totally agree. So I'll put it on the back burner, check in with you guys next month, see what the governor says. And I wish you a very good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good night. Dennis. So last week, Lee and I decided that we thought that we had a strategic reliance, a relationship with South Hadley. This is going into shared services. And to the point that whether it's the one that's the biggest ones that we had worked on was the for inoculations or giving medicine. And we have a plan in place with South Hadley to be able to reach all the townspeople. And Lee, I think it's 3 days. And that was one. And so as we said, gee, Amherst doesn't look like a strategic issue. Herb, you've brought up something that in fact I signed up for the session that's going to be Thursday night at 5 o'clock. That for sure there's a move, a state strategic move that says communities should be getting together to be getting more oomph out of whether it's dollars or staff and so with that, Herb, you're the one that asked to bring this back up for discussion. Why don't you take the floor?
Well, I think that's exactly the point, Dick. We're a very small town with very few resources. South Hadley augments the bit we have, and evidently in the past they have been helpful. But we've also seen in the last 2 weeks how helpful Amherst has been to us in Granby for our homebound people, with bringing their EMTs and their director out to help. I think it was 11 or 12 of our homebound. I think Jean, I see, is on the line right now. So when Emma reached out and said, are you interested in shared services? With her already helping us in a major way with shared services, with providing vaccine when she had it for some of our homebounds. I thought that made a lot of sense. What I had trouble with, and I'm still having trouble with my computer, and maybe you all can inform me, I don't know what all constitutes shared services. So if you can enlighten me on that, that would be great. But it would seem to me that a bigger town like Amherst and a bigger region like Northampton, with Northampton, Amherst, ourselves, South Hadley, maybe Chicopee, maybe Ludlow, we're maybe going to get to a critical mass where we could actually work with the state and be able to do something, as opposed to being pretty impotent just here in Granby, wanting to do any kind of public policy. So I'm mostly showing my ignorance about what the shared services are, but my sense is get together with surrounding towns and try and work cooperatively. That's the way I would first look at this.
But I'll see if I can get you the explanation. They did talk, in fact, one of the examples was talking about like this emergency inoculation thing that we have with South Hadley. I know my feeling was that if we've got a history of 20 something years or whatever of shared services, including fire departments and we've got common water supplies, and that taking a very long-term relationship and say, gee, we've had a good month with Amherst, we should throw that other one with South Hadley away, didn't make sense to me. But what makes tons of sense to me is what you're talking about, saying we got this limited resource in our little town, and that especially with the state saying that they've got a strategy that says don't have a little town out there all alone, get together with someone. So I'd offer is that what we ought to do is, and I'll find that and get it to you directly, Herb, so you can read it. But I think what makes sense to me is for us to say, let's listen to what's going on Friday night and find out how we fit and what's the right direction. I have some concern that says if the shared way to deal with this health issue is the way that for one thing, the state is saying that makes sense, but as you just said, Herb, it makes sense. It's whether the state said it or not, it makes sense that
Yes.
we ought to understand it, and that we ought to be hooking up with somebody. If it's Amherst or if it's South Hadley, or as you said, if it's Chicopee or whatever makes sense, we should be doing something.
And I think that making sense, Dick, could mean a consortium of a variety of the towns around us, not picking South Hadley over Amherst. I wasn't suggesting that, or to throw away long-term relationships with Sharon Hart in South Hadley, but in fact to enlarge the consortium, enlarge it, and be better prepared and have more public health and public policy awareness. When I look at Northampton, they have a tremendous amount of public policy and public health personnel and drive and experience that we don't have at all. And in fact, when I went to those meetings in Northampton over the last the last year and a half with Meredith O'Leary and Lauren and a whole variety of people from other towns, there's a lot going on that we should be part of.
Herb, were you planning on being at that 5 o'clock session on Thursday?
I don't know, Dick. I'm not sure.
I will.
Yeah, maybe it would make great sense for all of us to try and partake of that and learn everything we can, learn what they have, what's on their mind and what they might have to offer, and what might make, as you're saying, and I'm saying, what might make sense for small towns like ours to be better prepared and better able to respond to something like we're faced with now. We certainly could not have responded to our homebounds without help from Amherst right now. Maybe there's a way to expand that even further.
And as you point out, maybe as you look at this thing, maybe it is a regional services. Maybe it's not just two towns, that it turns out if Amherst happens to be the inoculation guru, then we use that. And if there's somebody else that
Right.
Lee, what is
Yes.
your thought on this?
Yes, exactly. People can take different pieces of this pie to try and be prepared. This is just this pandemic which happened to hit us. We don't even know what the next thing is going to be, the next potential disaster. One of those giant planes out of Westover, God forbid that something would happen. I just don't know that we're prepared for a lot of major disaster right now. Maybe Gene knows differently, and maybe it's in the works in Northampton public policy for the area, but I certainly don't know about it here in Granby. So
Well,
I
one
think
of
we
the
should
things that
find
is
out
interesting-
everything we can. I agree with you, Dick. We've got to take part and learn what is available.
Yeah, I just on a side, Kathy Kelly Reagan asked me that a month ago. She said, I'm looking at what you guys are saying about the high school gym not being good, that the air's no good. And she said that it doesn't make sense to me that when we lost power and we had in our civil defense program and emergency housing ends up with everybody going into the high school, and you guys have just said it's not safe to be in there. She said, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And, but that's the same kind of thing. If you look whether we're having issues with when we had trouble with the septic system reviews, or we have trouble with housing and restaurants, and if you just go on, all the problems that come from an understaffed part-time department. Lee, what are your thinking? What is your thinking right now, Lee?
The thought process right now is that Hampshire County itself could, or maybe should be a state destination, split into maybe 3 or 4 collective towns that could share resources, money, and of course the vaccines and other items that are out there. The city of Westfield was turned down by the state a couple of weeks ago individually for trying to get vaccines by themselves. It didn't work out too well. But for sure, if we can get together with the money and infrastructure shared with Amherst, Northampton, South Hadley, we're going to be in a much better spot, because we just, as everyone knows and has talked about, on our own, it's not possible to be in the game. But through Hampshire County, it's a survivable goal. There must be a Hampshire County government. Wasn't there a move some years ago to dissolve all these small boards like ours and move into a collective agency, which doesn't matter now because it's long in the past, but maybe it's time to rethink about establishing a center for this type of issue for the residents that need this. And right now, everyone in this county needs this badly.
Well,
You
I
want to
think
start?
that,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. The meeting that's run by Lauren Devine that Meredith O'Leary is at, that I was representing the town of Granby, that there were multiple other towns represented, may be what you're thinking of, Lee. I told Lauren that I wasn't sure I could continue to come to that. But as this pandemic plays itself out, I think it's more and more important that we're part and parcel of it.
Absolutely correct. Are
Herb,
these Zoom
so
meetings?
as a follow-up, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Are these Zoom meetings, or do you have to physically be at these things?
Well, until all the problems came last March, they were in-person meetings over in Northampton. Subsequently, they have been Zoom meetings like everybody else is forced to do.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
What if, as our path forward with this thing, Herb, I'll find the shared services thing in the grant, then I'll get
Okay.
you that.
All right.
We'll go, I'm definitely gonna do the 5 o'clock session. Hopefully you can, but I'd like to at least lay on the table what our town would be like if it happened that, if this were 10 years ago, with the 3 members of the Board of Health, all with full-time jobs, and look at where we are right now with our schools and being ready, because it happens that if you look at the expertise of a hands-on Board of Health, that shouldn't really exist in any little town. And if it weren't for, it's just almost serendipity that the right people showed up at the right time for this. But our little town would have desperately needed the time that we've put into this and the expertise. And so this is not something that we should feel, wow, we're all set, we're really robust. We're not. We got 3 old men that are here that just happen to know what they're doing and care about what they're doing. And so the town isn't in a good spot. So,
Right.
so
And-
I'll do that. And
Send me the
And this-
link as well for the meeting, Dick. I know
I
it's
will-
somewhere on this computer, but I don't know where it is. So if
Okay,
you
let-
would send me the link along with the shared
Oh,
services.
right there. This is almost over. That was almost over.
okay, I
No,
will do
just
tomorrow
go
morning. I'll
white
send you both of those, sir.
I'm sorry?
How come?
It's not on tonight.
Tomorrow morning, I'll send you both. We've got
Okay.
someone
Okay.
on here that's noisy.
Yep.
So if that's it, then let's call it a night then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Okay,
Good night.
good night.
Nobody's right here.